Allies of former President Donald Trump say he's showing growing interest in a 2024 rematch against President Joe Biden. According to Politico, President Biden's declining political fortunes amid the resurgence of coronavirus and the fall of Kabul have intensified the interest of the former president, adding that Mr. Trump is already motivated by a burning sense of pride and grievance over his loss. Politico's national political correspondent Meredith McGraw joins me now with more on her reporting. Hi there, Meredith. So you interviewed some of the former president's closest allies. What do they think will be the determining factors for a possible Trump 2024 bid?
Well, months ago, a lot of Trump's allies and advisors said they weren't so sure that the former president was going to be eager to jump into the 2024 race. After all, he was still dealing with the fallout of everything that happened on January 6th. He was getting into sort of a routine in Florida and had been enjoying the endorsement process and acting as sort of a political kingmaker. But now, as the former president has seen President Joe Biden's poll numbers start to fall, especially with how he dealt with the withdrawal in Afghanistan, and then, of course, the fourth wave of this COVID pandemic, he's seen what they say is, quote, blood in the water. And they think that the former president could, in fact, jump in, that he's serious about it. He's talking about it. And beyond that, his team is already building things out. He has two very seasoned political operatives that are on the ground in Iowa. They've been there. His team says to push forward, their Save America agenda. That's the line they're using, but at the same time, they're keeping an eye on some of the 2024 hopefuls that are coming through. And then, of course, Trump has plans to do a few more political rallies in places like Iowa and Georgia. There could also be one in the works for Florida. And so he's making a lot of these big political moves that signal that he is very serious about 2024 right now.
In the near term, Meredith, how is former President Trump spending the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks?
So this Saturday, the former president is doing something a little bit unusual. It's been announced that he is going to be a guest commentator along with his son at a professional wrestling match on Saturday evening in Florida. Meanwhile, we've already heard that former President Bush is going to be in Shanksville. Former President Obama is going to be in New York City. And then, of course, President Biden is going to be visiting all the sites and commemorating that day. I don't know what else the former president has planned that day. I don't know if he might be making any sort of stops to memorialize what happened on 9/11, but certainly being a guest commentator at a professional wrestling match on the 20th anniversary of 9/11 is a little unusual, and a lot of people are seeing it as kind of flippant.
All right. Well, the former president continues to be a prolific fundraiser. What other campaign-like activity are we seeing from the Trump team?
Well, like I said, he has these two rallies that are going to be coming up, and he continues to support candidates with fundraising. My colleagues reported today that it's expected he's going to throw his support behind a woman in Wyoming, Harriet Hageman, who is going to potentially be running against Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who's been one of the most outspoken critics of the former president, and particularly his behavior on January 6th. She was one of those 10 congressmen who voted in favor of his impeachment, and she's been one of his most outspoken critics on the right. And Trump is very eager to throw his weight around in that race, and his team is actively trying to push along a candidate that they think could beat Cheney in the Wyoming primary.
All right, 2024, meantime, the big open question. Meredith McGraw, thank you so much for sharing your reporting with us. Really appreciate it.